Hello everybody, we hope your all's week is getting off to a good start. Now earlier this morning about 9 a.m., Nissan unveiled their all-new 2021 Nissan Rogue. Now this of course is a huge deal for them, and not only because it is their best seller, but also because it competes in one of the hottest segments in the entire US auto industry. And routinely the Rogue is within the top three with the RAV4 and the CR-V. So it's definitely a big competition to see who's going to shake out on top every year. So for today's video, we want to do a little bit of a different thing for this kind of first look. Instead of just talking completely about the Rogue, we thought it would be pretty helpful to take what we know about the Rogue, we don't know everything, but what we know about it so far, and compare those key highlights to both the CR-V and the RAV4. Now, of course, the biggest thing that you're going to notice about this all-new Rogue is just how different it looks from the outgoing model, and that's because it has a much more expressive design than the current generation. The current generation is a little bit on the bland side for the segment, and this all-new one really brings it in line with its main competitors, the CR-V and the RAV4. So up front, you're going to have that large grille, and you're also going to have a really boxy design, which is something that I'm happy to see because a lot of people in this segment really want that boxy SUV look. And of course, setting that off is a two-tone roof, which is something that the RAV4 offers, and a lot in the segment are going to. That gives that more expressive vibe. Right, and Nissan was one of the first ones to introduce the two-tone roof design across different models in their lineup, so it's definitely nice to see it come here to the Rogue. And just kind of looking at it, I would say it seems like it fits somewhere in between the CR-V and the RAV4 as far as the way it looks. The RAV4 has a lot of really aggressive design characteristics, especially if you choose the XSE trim level. So I'm not sure it looks exactly as aggressive as that on the outside. But definitely the CR-V, has been on sale for a while. It's on the blander side of things, so I think it looks quite a bit spicier than that. And then as far as the new rear design, like Drew was saying, this is kind of a mix between the aggressiveness of a RAV4 and a Honda CR-V, and I think this back actually looks a lot like the Nissan Murano, which is certainly a good thing because that is a more expensive vehicle. And then up in the front, revisiting that, we have LED headlights. So it's actually going to be standard across the board. So that's something that RAV4 does do, but the CR-V does not do. And if you're wondering about the dimensions, this is going to be 183 inches long with this new generation. And that does stack up really nicely against those two main competitors, being about 3 inches larger than both of them. And that does give it kind of a more substantial look, especially when added with that boxier design. And then as far as your wheels are concerned, they're going to range from 17 to 19 inches, which is going to be roughly in line with the rivals. I'm pretty sure that both of the rivals have that same range of wheel designs. It would have honestly been nice if they maybe had thrown in a bigger option. I know in the concept one that we had renderings of, it had really large, probably 20-inch, maybe 21-inch wheels, and they looked really good. So maybe in the upcoming model years, maybe they will add a bigger option that really spices it up even more. Now moving our way into the interior of this all-new Rogue. This is where you say goodbye to the old Nissan Rogue design and say hello to a much richer cabin. Just by looking at the pictures of this, it looks like a very upscale place, even in the more basic trim levels. So here, they showed us mainly the pictures of the Platinum, and I have to say it has a very nice design. Honestly, it has some Infinity components brought down into it. Some of the stuff is better than what Infinity offers, honestly. I know. And it probably, honestly, as far as the materials are concerned, is going to be nicer than the Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V. The RAV4 has pretty good materials, and the CR-V as well, but this really seems to bring a more premium vibe than those two models. Yeah, you have a lot of quilted components when you go for that Platinum trim level, including one of my favorite things,
is the quilted leather seats. Those look really, really nice. And in this new Rogue, Nissan has said they're finished in semi-aniline leather. I can't think of anything else in this segment that has that type of quality in the leather and the stitching. It really stands out in this class. You're talking about against the RAV4, it doesn't even offer real leather on any of the trim levels, even all the way to the Limited. So that's certainly going to be a feature that stands out from the competition.
And then as far as some of your other components, you're going to have an available 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster on this Rogue, which is honestly something you don't even see very commonly on luxury vehicles right now. And then as far as the center display, that's going to be a 9-inch center display. And you even have a 10.8-inch head-up display, which most of the rivals don't even have as an available option.
Yeah, so that's definitely Nissan going really hard on the technology, because that all three of those items are better than what is offered in CR-V and RAV4. Now, of course, like I said, we don't have every piece of specific information, but there are a few other features to point out. Of course, Nissan was a pioneer in 360-degree camera system, so that is on board here with the new Rogue. That's still missing from the CR-V. We also have available 3-zone climate control. That is a class exclusive. There are no rivals that offer 3-zone automatic climate control in this segment. We have heated front seats and heated rear seats and a heated steering wheel. CR-V does not have seat heating in the back. However, Nissan does not mention seat ventilation in their press release, which leads me to believe that's not available, and you do get that if you go for the RAV4.
And as far as your space is going to be concerned, we actually do have those figures. So your rear legroom is 36.8 inches, and that is slightly behind the RAV4. And as far as your cargo capacity, it's going to come in at 74.1 cubic feet, which is almost as much as the CR-V, which is pretty much the very top end of the segment. It's about 4 cubic feet less than the Honda CR-V, but larger than the Toyota RAV4.
Now let's talk safety, because that's of course very important in a family vehicle, and the Japanese automakers continue to lead the way in this segment by offering pretty much all the safety systems as standard equipment. So on the new Rogue, they have standard Safety Shield 360. So that's going to be both front and rear automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert, lane departure alert, and automatic high beams. Now, as far as how that compares to the RAV4 and the CR-V, those are both going to lack blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert as standard equipment. So on the lower trims, those will be missing. However, both of those models give you adaptive cruise control as standard equipment, which is something that on this new Rogue will be optional. And now let's talk about the driving experience. Now, this to me was one of the areas that's probably the weakest in the existing Rogue. There's nothing specifically wrong with it, but as far as dynamics, how fast it is, the way the transmission is tuned, it does have, it is lacking against the main competition as well as most of the other rivals. And thankfully, Nissan is going to address this with the new model. Now, of course, we're not behind the wheel of it or anything, so you can't verify, but it does ride on an all-new platform, and they said they put a lot more emphasis on the driving dynamics. It also comes with a new steering setup, so I'd be glad to see that. It kind of had like the first generation of the electric power steering, so it's really missing a lot of feel. So hopefully, and as we've seen with the recent products, the Altima, the Sentra, those are much, much better. So if we see that same stuff come to the Rogue, I think the driving experience is going to be much elevated.
And then as far as your engine is concerned, that's going to be a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, and that's going to make 181 horsepower and 181 pound-feet of torque, which is up pretty significantly from the previous generation. So that's 11 horsepower up and 6 pound-feet of torque up. As far as how that compares to the CR-V and the RAV4, it's 9 horsepower under the CR-V and 25 horsepower under the RAV4. So, it is still going to be operating at a deficit over those models, but it's definitely going to be upgraded over the current gen. And there is not going to be an optional engine, and no hybrid was mentioned in Nissan's press release for this vehicle.
But it is naturally aspirated. I know some people in this segment prefer the natural aspiration to turbocharging. Of course, the CR-V is only offering the 1.5 liter turbo right now.
And then it shouldn't come as a surprise that Nissan is going to throw in their CVT transmission. However, it will most likely have, the shift simulation that is seen in the new Altima and stuff, their newer Nissan products.
The new programming is a lot better.
Which honestly, that puts it ahead of something like a CRV, because the CRV doesn't do as good of shift simulation.
And finally, a few odd and end things to wrap things up here. Fuel economy, that has not been released, obviously. Also, the on-sale date, surprisingly, is still going to be this fall. Nissan has said they're on schedule with the release of this Rogue, so that's definitely exciting since so many products have been delayed all the way until 2021. We're still going to have the new Rogue this fall. Pricing is not official yet, but we wouldn't expect that it will increase by very much at all, because how competitive this segment is, you can't really price yourself too much ahead of the competition. So we'll probably be starting about $25,000 and going up to around $40,000 for the new Platinum.
Well guys, that concludes this kind of first look comparison video between the RAV4 CRV and Rogue. Now of course, when this vehicle comes out in the fall, we will be doing a full review on this Nissan Rogue, as well as probably numerous comparisons in this segment, since it's such a hot segment. But until then, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.